Moustache. Oh, what the shit? Why do popular left-wing political YouTubers look like this?
I'll smash your fucking face.
And popular right-wing political YouTubers look like this.
Ice cream cone!
The political sphere on YouTube has exploded over the last few years, with creators on both the right and the left gathering huge followings and even occasionally being noticed by the mainstream media and the public at large. Particularly in these tense and polarised times, it's been incredibly interesting to see the so-called culture war play out on one of the largest platforms on the internet, and in particular to see how these new media moguls are capturing a larger and larger audience. And in particular, I think it's been incredibly interesting to see the visual styles that creators on both sides of the political spectrum have been gravitating towards. And that, for me, has led to a particularly interesting question, and that question is, why do these creators look so different? I mean, sure, these are people with wildly differing views of the world, but why would the aesthetic language of your YouTube video change based on your feelings about race or immigration or Donald Trump? Now, in this video, I'm going to present my personal theory about why these two different groups of people espouse their political views in such radically different ways, and by the end of it, you're going to know why the pinkos look like this and the fash looks like this. Okay, so here's what I've got. It's a working theory, so I look forward to hearing your calm, civil contributions to the open marketplace of ideas in the comments below. This is the 5-factor model. It's a personality modelling framework often used by psychologists, and it attempts to describe personality in terms of 5 distinct character traits. They are openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, assertiveness, and neuroticism, often abbreviated to OCEAN. Essentially, the 5-factor model posits that if I know how open, conscientious, extroverted, assertive, and neurotic you are, that I can make some pretty good guesses about what you're like as a person. But what do these words even mean? Openness to experience. People who are high in openness to experience are very receptive to non-traditional ideas and approaches. They love trying new things, taking in weird art, and travelling to new places. Conversely, people who are more closed to experience prefer certainty over novelty, tradition over the flavour of the day. They appreciate familiar environments and value predictability in the status quo. Conscientiousness. Conscientious people are generally very driven and hard-working. They're well organised and punctual, and they're responsible with the duties or obligations that they take on. People with low conscientiousness, on the other hand, tend to be less motivated, goal-oriented, and organised. They also tend to be more lazy and impulsive. Extroversion. Extroversion is a term that actually has made it into the general parlance and refers to someone who is outgoing, gregarious, and generally energised by social interaction. Introverts, on the other hand, tend to be more inward-looking and often quiet or shy in social situations. Introverts generally value their alone time and are more likely to have smaller groups of more trusted friends. Agreeableness. Agreeable individuals are very friendly and cooperative. They're generally trusting of others and keen to avoid confrontation. Disagreeable individuals, on the other hand, are more confrontational. They are more distrusting than their agreeable counterparts and are motivated to act more in accordance with self-interest rather than with regard for others. Neuroticism. If you're high in neuroticism, you're likely to sweat the small stuff more than necessary. You're generally more fearful and anxious and often focus on the negative aspects of situations. If you're low in neuroticism, you worry less about things in the day-to-day, sometimes too little, and you're generally relaxed and calm, especially under pressure. So this 5-factor model has been around for decades now in various forms, and there's a bunch of independent research which backs up A, its validity as a metric of measuring a person's personality, and B, measuring how people's 5-factor traits correlate with various other things about them, like job success, criminality, and mortality. One of these areas in which scientists have reported correlations is political affiliation. So if I know your measurements on the 5-factor model, then I can make some pretty good guesses about what politicians and policies you support. So how does your personality predict politics? Well, for that we go to a 2010 study from the American Political Science Review. I want to stress at this point that this data represents the cumulative average of 20,000 people and can't be representative of everyone's experience. There are righties and lefties out there with all kinds of levels of all 5 traits, but here we're talking in general terms. In general terms, Researchers found that right-leaning people were more conscientious, less open-minded, and less neurotic than their left-leaning counterparts, who were generally far more open to experience and slightly more agreeable. When you think about it, these results actually make a lot of sense. Lefties' higher levels of openness to experience make them more accepting of policies that are new and idealistic, and the righties are more likely to vote for the stuff that's safe and known, and that, even better, might take them back to the good old days. Conscientiousness, which tends to be higher in those that lean right, often manifests as a respect for the rules and puts a high value on hard work and discipline, which might explain why conservatives often implore people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Now, I could go on about how the 5-factor model can predict political leaning, but I hear you shouting, wait, I thought this video was about Rightube and LeftTube. To make those sorts of comparisons, you'd need some sort of data about how people's 5-factor traits influence their artistic leanings. This study, published in 2010 by the American Psychological Association, measures how people's 5-factor traits correlate with their artistic preferences. This is the table that describes how people's levels of each of the 5-factor traits correlate with their preference for art of different kinds. We see that in some places, people's traits have a significant impact on how much they enjoy art and what kinds of art they enjoy. The largest influences are here, with openness to experience correlating highly with enjoyment of both abstract and complex art, and conscientiousness predicting lesser enjoyment of art across the board, in particular where the art is complex. Complexity in this study, by the way, represents a visual property, not complexity in the interpretation or message of the art. So I'm pretty sure you can see where I'm going with this now. Oh my god. When we match up our political correlations with our artistic correlations, we can start to make predictions about how political leanings will affect artistic preference, using the 5-factor traits as a kind of go-between. Using this theory, we can predict, again in general, that lefties should prefer art more across the board, and in particular art that's unconventional or has a lot going on visually. People on the right, on the other hand, due to their conscientiousness, are more likely to enjoy less artsy media, and in particular media that sticks with traditional, tried and true formats. So, does our theory work? Let's have a look at some political YouTubers on both ends of the spectrum and see what we find. Here are a bunch of right-wing channels. From what I can tell, they mostly fall into 3 categories. Number 1, person in bedroom talking directly to camera. Number 2, person talking in voiceover against a mostly blank screen, which sometimes shows relevant screenshots and B-roll. And number 3, the evening news on fucking overdrive. Now, here's the interesting part. In looking at a bunch of left-wing YouTube channels, we can see pretty clearly that our first 2 right-wing formats have clear corollaries on the left. There's no shortage of bedroom hot take machines or voiceover jockeys. What is different is this odd third kind of genre, where the right wing has exaggerated news anchors, the left wing has whatever this is. This emerging style, this kind of neo-absurdist video essay, can be fucking bonkers, often involving several elaborate sets, odd tangents, and illustrative meta-narratives. So we started this video wondering why different political stances often manifested themselves in such physically, aesthetically dissimilar ways on YouTube, and I think here we've stumbled on one of the main reasons. Admittedly, it essentially boils down to liberals are a bit more artsy-fartsy and conservatives are a bit more traditional, which isn't exactly a breathtaking innovation, but it's something. So what did we learn from this trivial pursuit? We learned why Alex Jones has his desk and why PhilosophyTube has his snake. Why innovation-focused industries like Silicon Valley might lean left, and that our political views might be more influenced by our ingrained personalities than we might like to admit.